Drifting in Mario Kart has been a staple since the first game and is one of the most iconic parts about the franchise. It's always been beginner friendly and easy to understand, but has also had more layers than an onion, so it doesn't matter which game you pick up, there's always a ton to learn and master. In this video, we'll take a look at how this mechanic has evolved over the years to answer the question, what makes Mario Kart drifting so much fun? Starting with the OG Super Mario Kart. I recently gave this game a fair try for the first time, and I was pleasantly surprised by how well it holds up after all this time. The most interesting part about it is that there are no mini turbos. There are two ways to take a corner in Super Mario Kart. Regular drifting, you just have to turn in with the D-pad, and hopping to initiate a drift. Unlike the later games in the series, turning in actually has its own use in high-level gameplay. You can see here in a world record run, they don't always use the hop to take corners. Hop drifting is reserved for taking tighter corners, which can make your character spin out if you just drift normally. Compared to other Mario Kart games, your character feels pretty slippery, so you have to be very deliberate with your movements to stay on the track, which may lead you to discover an extra hidden mechanic in this game and is very important for the later games in the series, alignment hopping. For some reason, hopping in Mario Kart just gives you better control over your character, which can help you set up some very difficult lines as you get better and save you from small mistakes made in your drifting. The next game in the franchise, Mario Kart 64, builds upon these mechanics in an all-new 3D world. Trust me, it was impressive for its time. This is the foundation of all future 3D Mario Kart drifting, as this is where the drift boost is first introduced, later becoming the mini turbo, and the hop drift becomes the main way to take corners from this game onwards. These changes added more complexity to the gameplay. If you don't already know, you shouldn't hold all the way right or all the way left when drifting in modern Mario Kart games. You want to find a stabilization point that allows you to hug each corner as tight as possible without crashing into a wall. This is the quickest way around almost every corner and allows you to charge up the biggest mini turbo boost. This game is no different. Another mechanic introduced in this game, which I have grown to love the more I played, is what I'm gonna call the charge wiggle. Unlike in Mario Kart Wii and Up, you can't just hold the direction you want to drift and wait for a mini turbo to charge. To get a boost in this game, you need to wiggle your control stick back and forth to charge up the boost, and if you don't do this, no boost will charge at all. But if you're trying to find that stabilization point around every corner like we just talked about, the boost will charge pretty much automatically. This is phenomenal game design by Nintendo. They're pretty much telling you how to play this game properly by rewarding you with the drift boost. Now combine this with the hops you got good at from the last game, and you can easily chain these boosts together around longer corners, which is an important skill to learn going forward in the series. We're going to skip past Mario Kart Super Circuit, the next title in the franchise, as it plays like a more refined version of the original Mario Kart, so it really isn't relevant to this video. And who wants to talk about that when the next two games are literally the birth of Mario Kart snaking? This movement might look insane to those who have never seen this before, and don't worry, it is. The new physics engine used in these games allowed wiggle charging to reach its ultimate form by giving good players the ability to charge their mini turbos insanely quickly while staying vertical enough to receive the full benefit of the boost and make it easy to transition into charging the next mini turbo quickly. The boost got more powerful in these two games also, finally resembling the mini turbos we know today and just being the cherry on top for making snaking what it was in DS and Double Dash. But sadly, it seems like this might have been a bug and not a feature, because a short 3 years later, Mario Kart Wii released and they made some huge changes to the gameplay and never went back. Sure, snaking and other core elements of drifting still exist today, but snaking was never the same again, and it's probably because they removed wiggle charging. Mario Kart Wii is such an interesting point for the series because high-level gameplay is more like Mario Bike. Karts are hardly used in this game since the wheelie mechanic is insanely overpowered, so the only thing that is really familiar from past games is the hop drift. Although, it is worth noting, this game is the first time in the franchise we get a blue mini turbo boost. In every other game previous, you had to charge the mini turbo to the max level possible to receive a boost, but not anymore. As much as I love Mario Kart Wii, it's literally my childhood, I'm glad they decided to go back to their roots and remain true to the title of the series for the next game in the franchise. It seems like at this point, Nintendo had an idea for what direction they wanted to take their beloved drifting mechanic, and all they needed to do was perfect it. And perfect the gameplay they did. The journey, or should I say the Odyssey, began with their first experiment, Mario Kart 7. Seriously, this game feels like an experiment for the style of drifting used in Mario Kart 8. Going back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe after playing MK7 had me feeling like Goku after taking off his weighted clothing. High-level gameplay looks very similar, although some important tech is missing in MK7. One technique that isn't missing though is something called delayed drifting. Let me not try to overcomplicate this. When starting a drift in any Mario Kart, most players will naturally point the control stick in the direction direction they want to turn at the same time as pressing the R button to hop into the air. Delay drifting unsyncs these two inputs. To do this correctly, you want to press the R button first, and just before you hit the ground, then move your control stick in the direction you want to turn. If done correctly, this allows you to charge your mini turbo much faster than normal and gives you the ability to do something called a straight stretch mini turbo, which is pretty self-explanatory and also very important for going fast. Thanks for enlightening me, Taylor MK7, but now I have something to admit to you. I have never played MK8 on the Wii U. I know, most popular game ever, right? Anyone who's played it says MK8 Deluxe is much better, and really the only differences I see between the two is fire hopping. I remember seeing this mechanic when I was like 12, wishing I could play this beautiful looking Mario Kart game, but now it kind of sits in the shadow of its much more attractive younger brother, so we're gonna pretend it doesn't exist. And now, the moment you have all been waiting for, we have finally reached the climax, the magnum opus, the Mona Lisa of Mario Kart games. Mario Kart Tour. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This game just feels like a breath of fresh air after playing all the other Mario Karts. I can finally just stretch my legs and be the Mario Kart player I always wanted to be. The movement feels so fluid and dynamic. The mini turbos with the haptic feedback on my controller feel so satisfying to charge, and there is so much tech to learn. This is where everything we've been building up to comes together. The alignment hop, the mini turbo charging, the snaking, the delayed drifting, while also adding in many new mechanics to master. But soft drifting is the most important. In a nutshell, there are different charging speeds for mini turbos in modern Mario Kart games. The tighter the drift, the faster the mini turbo will charge, and vice versa. The shallower you take the turn, the slower the mini turbo will charge. This is a problem for certain sections of the track where you would want to snake, charge a bigger mini turbo boost, or just want an extra mini turbo, but if you try to charge a boost as fast as possible, you will turn in way too much, leading to a bad line, and if you try to stay as vertical as possible, this will just be slower. Soft drifting solves this problem. There is a region on the control stick that allows you to drift at a shallower angle while also charging your mini turbo at the fastest rate possible. It's pretty tricky to pick up, but once you get it, it unlocks another dimension to this game. So now that we have seen the progression of Mario Kart drifting over the 33 years that this franchise has existed, I'm sure we can answer the question in the title of the video. What makes Mario Kart drifting so good? Well, I think it's because of how much control we have over our characters. Even though it might not always feel like the outcomes of the races are in our control, a lot of the time it isn't, and even though inexperienced players might not feel the same way as they're flying off the map, the fact is the controls are the same for everyone. The capability to have full control over how your character moves is there, and I think all the tech and complexity of Mario Kart bleeds into how it feels for newer players, making it such a unique driving experience. Skill in Mario Kart is really just boiled down to how well you can maneuver your character through each course. There are other racing games with items and chaos, but none of them feel like Mario Kart. And I think that's because the mechanics of those games aren't as in-depth as those in Mario Kart. It's intuitive for new players, but challenging to master for those who dare to try. A time-tested strategy to keep players entertained and coming back for generations. But now I'm curious. Let me know what you think makes Mario Kart drifting so much fun in the comments. Now, let's just hope that Nintendo lowers the prices for the next game.